In the top stories, Prime Minister Harris hosts monthly press conference. More concerns about medical oxygen shortage in Jamaica, and photos of crowded U.S. detention centers put pressure on Biden. Hello and welcome to the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Today's Tuesday, the 23rd of March, 2021. I'm Jason Davis. Nationally, Prime Minister Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris will update the people of St. Kitts and Nevis on matters of national interest when he hosts his press conference this afternoon. The press conference will take place at 2 p.m. at the conference room of the National Emergency Management Agency at Lime Keene. The Prime Minister's press conference will be carried live on ZIZ Radio and other participating stations, ZIZ TV Channel 5, and will be streamed on the Facebook and YouTube platforms of the St. Kitts and Nevis Information Service and ZIZ. And speaking of ZIZ, the Venezuelan embassy has offered its congratulations to ZIZ Radio on the celebration of its 60th anniversary this year. In an official statement, Charge d'Affaires Marco Antonio Guzman Adrian said, quote, "Your organization has played a very important role in the development of the Federation, informing, educating, and entertaining the people. May it continue to serve its people for years to come, being a symbol of national pride for the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis." The Venezuelan embassy was one of several institutions that wished ZIZ Radio a happy 60th anniversary. Among them were the Caribbean Broadcasting Union, ABS Radio and TV, Vaughan Radio, and the Governor General. ZIZ Radio's 60th anniversary was observed under the theme, Building Our Legacy, ZIZ at 60. Several individuals were recently honored with cash scholarships from the Sandy Point Benevolent Society. The award ceremony was held on March 18 at the Sandy Point Community Center. The award ceremony showcased the SPBS's commitment to abide by its motto, "We give back so others can move forward." Deputy Prime Minister and Parliamentary Representative for St. Christopher V, the Honourable Sean Richards, expressed thanks to the Sandy Point Benevolent Society while acknowledging the significance of the awards ceremony. He said, quote, "I do believe that the members of the society recognize that just as education has been used by them to be able to develop themselves and the various communities in which they live, that likewise education must be used to develop other persons, and in particular the communities served by the Charles E. Mills Secondary School." End quote. The SPBS is a non-profit organization that contributes cash scholarships annually towards the education of youth within and around the Sandy Point community. The scholarship program acknowledges the excellent performances of students and also provides aid to those who wish to further their studies. We now move to news on the regional scene. In Jamaica, the circumstances surrounding the death of 3 patients at the Linstead Hospital in St. Catherine have raised more questions about the oxygen shortage on the island. And while confirming the deaths, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Health, Dunstan Brand, says he can't make a connection between the two. More in this TVJ News report.
Our cameras arrived just in time to see a funeral home collecting bodies from the Linstead Hospital in St. Catherine. Our sources tell us they included persons who reportedly died at the facility sometime between last night and this morning because it ran out of oxygen Friday. We tried to get a comment from relatives of one of the deceased, but they were too distraught to talk. When we contacted the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Health, Dunstan Brand, he confirmed there was an issue with oxygen.
Whether or not they completely ran out or it ran low, that information is being provided as we speak.
Mr. Bryan says, however, he could not link the deaths of the hospital within the last 24 hours to the oxygen shortage.
I cannot confirm that there is a link between the death of a patient and the fact that there was no oxygen at the hospital. My information is 2 persons that demised, and we regret the passing of these individuals, but I would not be able to say whether or not their demise is a function of the absence of oxygen, because that's a clinical determination.
Chairman of the Health and Sanitation Committee of the St. Catherine Municipal Corporation, Sidney Rose, says he was told otherwise.
I was called this morning by a resident of this area in respect to a death. And when I make made further inquiries. I was also told that 2 other persons has died as a result of no oxygen being at the Linstead Public Hospital.
Mr. Rose, who is also the councillor for the Treadways Division, wants the government to speed up the construction of the Treadways Health Centre. This, he argues, would help to curb the community spread of the coronavirus.
What has been happening, to some extent, is the spread where persons from Treadways will have to go to the Linstead Health Centre and vice versa at times. And that is what is contributing, I believe, to some of the spread as well. So I'm asking that the Treadways Health Centre, or construction of same, to begin in the shortest possible time.
Kirk Wright, TVJ News.
The country's COVID-19 death tally has increased to 524. This after 5 more deaths were recorded.
Moving on to regional news, Guyana will be receiving 76,800 fewer doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine initially pledged by the COVAX facility. Tamika Rodney of HGP News has the details.
The COVAX facility, an initiative co-led by the World Health Organization to provide equitable access to COVID-19 vaccines, has reduced its initial allocation of 100,800 doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine to Guyana. According to Health Minister Dr. Frank Anthony, the facility has issued a notice that 24,000 doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine are to be expected within 3 weeks.
They initially promised us to give to Guyana vaccines for 20% of our population in this year. We received a letter from them about a month and a half ago where they promised to send, as a first tranche, 100,800 vaccines or doses of vaccines. That they then revised that total to that they would be sending within the month 33,000 doses of vaccine. And today I actually received another letter to say that within the next 3 weeks that we can expect 24,000 doses of the vaccine.
The minister noted that the reduction will affect the aggressive rollout of the vaccination drive. However, the same fate has been observed in other Caribbean territories.
They have not only done this to Guyana, they have done this to Suriname and to some of the other Caribbean countries where they have constantly reduced the amount of the allocation to these countries. And that's worrying for us because we are expecting and we were planning to utilize those doses to get to certain segments of our population. And when that is reduced, we then have to look for alternative arrangements.
Guyana, which is part of the COVAX Advanced Market Committee, was not required to pay for the AstraZeneca vaccines. The government has since explored alternative vaccine sources such as Russian authorities. 50,000 doses of the Russian Sputnik V vaccines are expected in a week's time. To date, more than 20,000 Guyanese have been immunized using the Sinopharm and AstraZeneca vaccines, which were obtained from China and India. The country has received a total of 103,000 doses of vaccine since the start of the immunization drive on February 11th. Last month, it was reported that AstraZeneca was scrambling to find more manufacturers to produce its coronavirus vaccine in Europe after the drug makers' bet on a limited number of sites fell short. The company is reported to be having the same challenges with meeting global supply targets. Tamika Rodney reporting for the HGP Nightly News.
Internationally, images have emerged of Central American migrants, including women and children, crammed together in detention facilities at the U.S. border, increasing pressure on President Joe Biden's administration over immigration policy amid a sudden surge in arrivals to the U.S. Immigration officials report that more than 9,000 unaccompanied children entered the U.S. in February, and since then, an average of 500 a day have come through. Their surge at the U.S. southern border is on track to shatter previous arrivals records. Al Jazeera's Heidi Ju Castro reports.
The U.S. government claims these are not detention centers. But photos taken from inside U.S. Border Patrol facilities have stirred an outcry. Thousands of teenagers and younger children crowded into pens and sleeping on floors, held in these conditions for more than 5 days, in violation of a court order requiring they be moved to more child-friendly shelters within 72 hours.
Those detention centers are jails. I mean, they are guarded by agents and officers.
The U.S. Homeland Security Secretary and a contingent of senators toured a Border Patrol facility holding children Friday. Media were barred from entering, officials said, due to COVID concerns.
We are safely processing the children who do come to our border. We strongly urge, and the message is clear, not to do so now.
Under the Trump administration, thousands of migrant children who arrived at the U.S. border had been expelled to Mexico without seeing an immigration judge. President Joe Biden ended the practice, calling it inhumane. Now immigration officials report more than 9,000 unaccompanied children entering the U.S. in February. And since then, it's been an average of 500 more a day.
Children presenting at our border who are fleeing violence, who are fleeing prosecution, who are fleeing terrible situations is not a crisis.
In an effort to expedite moving the minors to better conditions, the Biden administration has deployed FEMA, the government agency that handles disasters, to turn the Dallas Convention Center into an emergency shelter for 2,000 children. 3 other temporary shelters are in operation or being planned. There, migrant children wait another 30-some days, but with access to school and recreation until the government places them with a U.S. sponsor.
That process of waiting for sponsorship should be shortened, and we need to put more resources there. But also, while they wait, they should be put in place and in care of nonprofits and faith-based organizations. But by no means, Border Patrol is the alternative for these children.
The White House says it's sending messages to Central American countries for their youth not to come. That includes 17,000 ads on the radio, social media, and television. It's unclear how many children are listening in their home countries. What's obvious is that their numbers at the U.S. border continue to grow. Heidi Jo Castro, out.
And now for the weather. Current conditions are cloudy skies with a light breeze of 9 miles per hour from the east. The temperature is 29 degrees Celsius or 84 degrees Fahrenheit. Seas are moderate with waves of 4 to 5 feet. The weather forecast for St. Kitts and Nevis says to expect partly cloudy skies with a 60% or moderate chance of showers for today and tonight. Sunset today will be at 6:22 p.m., sunrise tomorrow at 6:11 a.m. And that brings us to the end of the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Join us this evening for these stories and more in detail. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Jason Davis.